have your mic on and make sure you mute yourself. And we are about to get started in just about 2 minutes. All right, and if we're not muted, we're going to not be able to stay at the event. Cool. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, and we just have this poll up, and we're going to get started in 1 more minute for people that are just coming in the room. All right, guys. Awesome. I love these word clouds. They always look so amazing. And they're always super fun to see at all the events that I've done. I've really started including them because how satisfying is that? If you don't see it yet, submit an answer or click skip, and you're going to see the word cloud, and it's super neat. This is why I use Butter, because there's all these amazing features. All right, and I'm going to give it 1 more minute, maybe half a minute, and then we're going to get started. So thanks for coming, everyone, and make sure you submit your answer in the poll. So I am going to get us started here. Let's see. So if you haven't gotten your human design chart, I'm going to stick it in the chat so that you can go and get one while we're talking if you want. What we're going to do here starting out is we're going to just do like a little, I know some people really wanted to come and they are potentially driving or something like that. And so obviously this little exercise we're going to do, don't do it if you're driving. But there we go. All right. And I'm just going to remind people to keep themselves on mute unless they are called on at some point if they have a question. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick recap of what Butter is. Okay. So Butter is this amazing software that is like if Steve Jobs made Zoom, it would look like Butter. So at the end of the event, you're going to get a email of the recap of this event, and it's going to have the recording. It's going to have all of the different things that we talked about so you can revisit it. So that's super amazing and handy, right? So let's see. So we are going to do this little visualization here. I'm going to end this poll. And poll, awesome. If you guys want to look at that word cloud at any point, that is going to be in the chat. And you can just click on it and check it out at any point. Now, let's see. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start out with this visualization. Now, in order for us to, if you can't visualize, by the way, that's okay. Just do it however works for you, right? That might mean that you can feel it and sense it, or you just have an understanding or knowing. We all do it a little bit different, right? So what we're going to do here is I want you to imagine your best ideal future, right? Like, just take a minute. If you need to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to keep them open, that's fine too. But really just, let's start out with taking like a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now, if you could, in your business, in your personal life, have this dream life, right? not the life that, looks like the path to success to you, but the life that you really, really want, right? What means success to you and feels good, whether it's satisfying, successful, peaceful, whatever, right? What does that look like? Where are you? What is your perfect experience? Who's there? Imagine that you have as much money, as many resources as you ever need. This is your utopia, right? I'm going to give you just a minute, and I'm going to start this sound to give you just a minute to really go deep as you can on this. Feel it with all 5 senses. Now, for me, I even include taste in this. For me, there's definitely like fresh fruits involved. It's very like, this is what luxury feels like to me. To you, that might be different. Now, as you visualize this, really, what does it feel like to be you in this perfect utopia that you've built for yourself? Who are you in this? Take a minute to just feel it in your body. Really like experience that, ramp up that joy or satisfaction or whatever it is that you're feeling. Really see how strong you can make this feeling. And now, as you're ready, open your eyes if they're closed, come back to the room. Take another minute if you need to. I'm going to get started on really explaining how this relates to our shortcuts here to success. And this is crucial. This is the thing, right? That this is the thing. Is because anybody, like any of the greats, we think about who is really successful. At least successful in a way that looks like it would be enjoyable to live, right? Because there are successful people that just don't, necessarily have the life that we would want. But when we look at these people, the thing that they're focusing on and the way that they got there is always through mindset. It's always through committing to who you are and who you can be. And that moment that we had where you felt into your body what this utopia feels like, that is the thing. Okay, and we're going to talk about how to get there and why it's so important right now, more than ever. Okay, this is important more than it ever has been because there's a big shift that's happening right now. I don't know if you've noticed it in your businesses or whatever you do for work, but there's a big shift that's happening. There's a huge generational divide between baby boomers and Gen Z, right? And so this divide we're going to feel, and there's only one way through it, and that is to be the most authentic version of you that you can possibly be. What you're going to notice is if you go over to the left-hand side, you're going to see a toolbar. And on this toolbar, there's a few different things that are important, okay? So there is this reactions thing. I want you to engage. Obviously, we're not shouting out. But I'm super excited to have you all here. So you're going to be able to use these fun, cool emoji things. And there's even like a soundboard. Let me see which one isn't. See, like there's funny things that we can do. That's fine, right? And then there's a queue right here. If you have a comment or a question, feel free to raise your hand. There's even notes, right? There's shared notes and there's private notes. You can use the little arrow that points down at the top to change it. And so when you log back in, yeah, I want to see you guys playing with that. I love that I see a couple people trying to share screens because they're just pressing buttons. Good, that's fun. Have at it, right? And so there's these shared notes and private notes. So feel free to go and check those out. Because when you get the replay of it sent to your email, that email that you logged in with is going to save it as private notes that only you can see. So I want to be clear, if there's anything that you want to put in those notes, especially right now after that little visualization that we just did, feel free to go ahead in the private notes because nobody else can see it. And if you want to put anything in the shared notes, that's fine too. I just want you to know that the private notes truly are private. Like I can't even see them. And they will be in the replay so you can revisit it, which is incredible. So going back to this whole authenticity thing, right? It's really interesting because, let me see, Joe's in here. And one of the things that I've watched him do over the past year is talk to people about their values. And whenever he brings it up, people just get like deer in the headlights. Because the word values, people don't seem to like fully grasp it. And I didn't either, right? And so I realized I had values. I just didn't understand really what they were. And authenticity is my biggest value. And I realized how important that is. Because like I was saying, this change that's occurring, right? Not only is it important to enjoy your life that way, because if you want to manifest and change your life to that utopia, you have to be authentic, right? That's the only way through, is to align with this blueprint that you were born with, right? We all are different. And it's amazing. And it's this incredible thing that we get to use and apply to our businesses as well. Because these subtle little differences, the more we align with our blueprint, the more we differentiate ourselves when we align our brand with this blueprint, right? And so as we know, right, like the biggest problem between us and that utopia is resources. That's time, that's money. Typically it's those two things, right? Energy. Like those are the things, right? And occasionally there's something else, but like those are the main things. And so why aren't we this authentic self, right? Especially now that we're in a time that's rewarded when we align our brand with it, because people want to buy from the person that's authentic and their branding is authentic and purpose driven, because we make purchase decisions on emotions. And so when we feel really deeply connected and passionate about something, we're more likely to buy it, right? So why aren't we doing this? Well, I realized in the past like 6 months to a year or so, working with my clients, that there is one reason that people actually hold themselves back. And that challenge is that they're actually, it takes a few sessions to get to this, so you might not notice it right away. But after this, right, feeling that they are actually afraid to stand in their power because they don't know how to wield it, and they're worried about being strong enough to wield it, right? And this is why. When we are unable to wield our power, it looks destructive when it comes out. We hold it in and bottle it up, and then we feel it when that bottle pops and cracks open, and it bubbles to the surface, and we can feel our power in it. And we don't want to be that person, because the average person is a good person, right? And so we don't want to be that person that's blowing up at other people. We all have these moments where we reacted to something, and like that feels really powerful. In fact, it's so powerful that it was out of our control to some degree, right? And so that's what we subconsciously have connected as what our power actually is. And so between that and the conditioning of society and the way that our world is set up, right, we try to put our weirdness in a box and like just shove it somewhere. And so then the only time it comes up is when we're reacting, because we bottled it up. And it is out of control, but it doesn't have to be. And in fact, when we wield our power in its true form, we have less of these accidental, like, emotional outbursts, right? Yeah. So let's see, moving on to the next thing. So I'm actually going to just check in with a couple people. If you have an experience that this resonates with that you want to share, feel free to go over to the queue and raise your hand, okay? Let's see. Melanie, do you have like a moment that this resonates with that comes to mind that you don't mind sharing?
Not a specific moment, but just like in general. I haven't felt comfortable putting myself out there. Like I create amazing offerings and things like that, and then I'm like, put it out there. And it's because, yeah, I don't feel like I can, what's going to happen once I do put it out there. And it's like I have to like step into that and be like, no, I own this and this is me and I'm going to offend people and people are going to love me and that's okay. Either way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And
specific, just in general.
Well, and I like that you brought that up with the offer, because it's like, I bet that you probably also went through phases of, okay, how can I make this what I believe and have been conditioned to believe is the thing to do in an offer, right? Like, how have you diluted it and made it like what you think it's supposed to be, rather than what like feels like it's important?
Right. Yeah. And I've noticed that the offers that I create and the things that I do that aren't 100% in alignment with what I feel and what I know, but it's what a business coach told me to do. They fail.
Exactly, right.
They fail. But fail. They're not as successful. But when I really step into what I feel and what I believe and what I know I'm here to do and what I want to do and what brings me joy, it's successful and people love it and people resonate with it and I feel better. So it makes the work that I do less of a job and more of, I get to do this today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Jessica, what are your thoughts on this?
I think that you creep in my head and you find out all the things that I'm thinking, and then you have these meetings and you speak to me directly. That's what I think. So everything that you said completely resonated. I always knew I was weird from day one of remembering of being. Always recognizing the difference between me and siblings, other relatives like cousins and things. And like you said, you kind of put it in a box. You just push it away. It's too much for everyone. So in that, you kind of become lost of who you're actually meant to be. And understanding your power and things. And then wielding that power, because it can be explosive, and then the explosiveness is not received well, of course. And even when you have the best of intentions with what you're saying, it is just not received well. And then if you have this one occurrence, people tend not to take in consideration that your approach, your new approach is different. All they can see is what's happened before. So then just moving into, they will have to open their eyes and to see the difference, and being okay with being in that awkward space until you feel better.
Yeah, that transition space is interesting because it's like we almost make these micro actions, these like little actions that we're looking to reaffirm the things that we already believe to be true, right? And when we grow up being told that like being weird or like being ourselves sucks, right? Like we look around for that. And we're also surrounded by people that validate that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're in this weird raw transition state, it's so important to connect with like catalyst people and to like really put yourself into these different situations, which is this whole other layer of what the fuck, right? Like it's this whole other layer of difficulty because it's not just, one action. It's you have to like just jump off this ledge is how it feels. Thanks so much for sharing, Jessica. Ellie, what are your thoughts on this?
Morning, happy Monday. So, it definitely resonates with me. So, my childhood and upbringing was not more focused on my family because I grew up with my grandparents. So, I had the experience of growing up and traveling back and forth, right? And that opened up my eyes. So, when I'm with my family, I was treated as almost like the person who was like an outcast. And when I say my family, I mean like my siblings and also my cousins, because I'm the grandparents person. And then there was after that there was also a time when I was married and I was definitely not myself. I aligned myself and became what my husband's side was, and I alienated my entire like side, right, and family. So that was now I was divorced about, what is this, 11 years ago. Since then I have come to this journey of now realizing that I can be myself, and I am most happiest when I am myself. Um, I have I'm done with the people pleasing, where people my family or others expect and think like I'm the one who's always going to agree to everything others say, or treat me as if like I'm inferior because I grew up with my grandparents and not necessarily the people that are more within my age, right? But I am so empowered now because I've always been the curious type, and it's to the point where, you know what, this is my time, and I'm being true to myself. I'm living my best. I really, really am. I am so happy right now. I love learning. And the odd thing is I actually do like giving back as well. So it's funny because not very many like giving back. But now I've figured out what I need to do and what I want to do. And so I got nothing but, just what is it, exciting times, I guess. I just time resource time is really my thing, my challenge, because I got so many things going on. But I am so excited because yes, I know my values and I've aligned it, and my mantra this year was actually clarity of all the things, and I established that in December. And yes, it is unfolding, and that's why, because of this clarity vision, I am where I am at right now, which is with you guys today.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing, Ellie. Yeah, it's these moments of this that clarity that you're talking about, right? Like we all have these micro moments of like, ooh, that doesn't feel great, and we tend to not hold on to them. We tend to try to ignore them and put them like on the tip of our tongue, right? Is how I call it, like in your thought process, right? And then we let it drift away. And what happens here is that we end up without coherence. So we end up with uh, our heart and our heart's here. Our heart and our mind both have neural networks, right? Like it's been proven. And so when they are not in coherence, when they're not working together, as well as our subconscious and conscious mind being out of congruence, right? We're basically just running ourselves in circles. And so we have to slow down and actually take a look at that in order to step into that clarity, right? And so I'm going to actually share with you, there's that big shift that I was talking about that's coming. And the reason that this is extra amazing is because during this big shift, we're going to see a lot of changes happening. And I'm going to share with you some different things that, okay, so I was talking earlier about how nature takes over very quickly, right? And so this is the reason that stepping into it now, before this great shift really hits, right? Like we're 1 to 3 years away from like the big shift really taking over. Okay. The big shift where people refuse to buy from things that use the old ways of selling, the old ways of marketing, and they can feel the difference, right? Like when you meet, there's a reason that people say like it has like a used car salesman vibe, right? Because we can feel the difference. And it's huge, right? And so nobody wants that anymore. We're all done with it. We're all ready, like we're all leaking out of these boxes that we've tried to put ourselves in. Like this is happening on a mass scale level, right? After COVID, people are sick of it because we all got to sit home with ourselves. And yes, a lot of us had panic attacks, but that led to clarity. It led to, oh, wait, we got to slow down for a second. And so just in that short period of time, nature started to take over. And so here's some examples of it happening in the physical world, first of all, right? So this city in China was only abandoned in the 90s. And at this point, like, look at it. That's insane, right? How fast that happens. And then the other thing about nature is it's incredibly adaptable. And as above, so below, as within, so without, right? If you look at things like all rivers lead to the ocean, that is the same design as like our bodies, like our blood vessels. And you see this happen in many different areas, right? And so when we look at things like this, these trees and different plants and stuff, how they just adapt, it's crazy. And we can do this too. That's the thing, right? And so like this right here is a boat. You can't really see the boat, but there was no island there. It's now an island. It's an entire island. And we all know like how trees grow around signs, right? And so that's us leaking out of these boxes. We can't help it but leak out of these containers. And so here's an area, hold on, maybe, that this started happening that I noticed very recently in marketing. And it's an example of social media here, okay? So on TikTok, right? This is this bell curve of everything will balance itself out forcefully if it has to. Now, there's this woman, Kylie Pitts, and she's a mom, and she just like decided to use that old follow train strategy. But what she did is she knew that moms are all like have this same inner desperation, right? They're home, they're oftentimes isolated. And so she used this follow train strategy targeting moms like herself specifically. Now, this made her grow like crazy quick, right? And so she was able to monetize it using the TikTok shop like super quick, because what else do moms do? Buy things, especially like at like 2 a.m. when they're exhausted, right? And so she made a shit ton of money. And so she posts this video of herself buying the car that she's always wanted in cash. And that really like started this frenzy of moms everywhere doing this teamwork follow train strategy that she did, right? And so then TikTok became flooded. And I watched this happen in real time. As a mom myself, right, this stuff was coming up on my feed. And even people that aren't moms, like the rest of my feed is not mom stuff. But like TikTok became flooded with low value content. It disrupted the whole algorithm and decreased user interest drastically. Like their times and everything was all dropping. Because people are, when you look at the follow train stuff, it's literally just like somebody sitting there doing nothing, being like, follow me and I'll follow you back. That's it. Like that gets boring really quick, even for the people who are engaging in those challenges, right? And so TikTok had to rapidly change the algorithm to boost posts over time and based on value metrics. So now the high quality content, right, is done in a high quality way. And it's no longer this like crazy popularity contest of luck, and virility isn't as random. And it's like a slow, sustainable process, right? And I have been watching this on my own accounts, and it's really like the past week or so, this is really solidified, right? You get like a very slow, gradual build that's totally sustainable. And this is where marketing and everything is going, right? It's less about what is called trans logic, which is basically like convincing people in that moment, even though when they walk away, the thing that you use to convince them no longer makes sense, right? And so that's what's happening now. Is it's inevitable. Nature will take over and we will reset back to the original state of authenticity, right? And so I was talking about how this is happening right now. And so getting ahead of this curve is going to be incredibly important, because as we all know, the first people that used TikTok, right? Again, they weren't doing anything, but they were the first ones. So they got to take advantage of this shift. Now, in this shift as well, I'm actually working with this amazing group of people. A couple of them are here today that are starting this, and some of you know about this, new way of networking. It's sort of an economy within an economy. And so being part of this is going to be a big deal, especially early on, right? And so staying connected and staying in tune with the different things that we're doing, like, and with like me, for example, maybe it's okay, is a big deal, right? And I mean, you hear my baby in the background, right? That's all part of this. That's all part of this authenticity. People during COVID just stopped being able to, right? Like we all, like, it reminds me of that video that's I still laugh at when I see, of that news anchor guy, right? And his baby just like comes in the background, and then his wife comes in and like tries to be subtle and snatches the baby up and runs away. And it's just hilarious, right? Because again, nature takes over and our authentic lives leak through, and we can't, like, yeah, we may be like, I'm not right now, I'm wearing a Nirvana shirt, but we may be like dressed nice on top, but how many people still wear pajama pants during these things? I bet you some people don't even wear pants during these things, because guess what? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So it's really liberating to be like, wow, okay, I can do these things. So sometimes it's like we just do it for the sake of it. And that's because it's like kids. Every chance they can get to do that thing that they want to do that they're not supposed to do, if they see a little place that they can sneak it in and do it, they're gonna. And guess what? We're no different. And so figuring out who you are is the most revolutionary, biggest flex that you can do in your business. That will be the most sustainable choice you've ever made. Yeah, pets too. You're right, Jessica. My dogs don't care if I'm watching even. So, and again, a lot of you have probably seen that if you come to my events regularly. And so what's going to happen after this is I'm going to show you something actually. Okay. So, wrong one. All right. So I'm going to show you something really, really cool. So those of you that have been in any of my rooms, you know that I use human design as the main tool, right? And so here's this thing. Oh, where to go? All right, hold on. Let me I guess I'll do it this way. Thought I had already done this, guys. Okay, so this is this one's mine, right? But we all have one of these compasses, okay? And we all have this North Star. This is called our life's work. And for coming to this event, after the event, you're going to get this email and it's going to have 3 different things in it. It's going to have Joe, are you moving shit on me? Leave it alone. All right. Well, guess it's gonna move on me. All right. So it's actually, this might be a thing that we all can do. What a weird thing. Anyway, so we all have one of these life compasses, right? We all have a North Star. This one's mine. Mine's 13. Ha! That's funny. You can all move it. That's fine. Guys, feel free to write a funny little note. I don't care. Draw me a picture. That's nice. Love this butterboard. What a weird thing. So yeah, basically we all have this North Star right here. That is the first point to unlock everything. This sequence right here, this compass, is called the activation sequence. And when we walk through this, while I'm saying this, if anybody has done this kind of thing with me, I know a bunch of you have, feel free to raise your hand so that you can explain what this process is like and you're not hearing it from just me, because this is seriously the most incredible thing, right? And the way that I do it is a little bit different than the average person as well, because you're not going to find this compass here anywhere else. And so this North Star here, right? Mine is 13. And that is the gate of the listener and the fellowship of man. And basically it's this access here, this 13 and 7. That means that I'm here to pull the past and the present together into the future, right? That's what that is. And so that's what I'm doing right now, right? And it's incredible that when we deal with the challenge, have a breakthrough, and then balance out our core stability, it feels monumental, and the shifts that we make are subtle. But it's all of those subtle shifts that we make in our behavior that change everything, right? It's like being at a fork in the road. Are you going to go left or right? Well, in that moment, I mean, maybe it's a big deal, but maybe it isn't. Maybe you're just on a walk and you don't have a plan. And so you're on a walk and you go one way and it brings you to a cemetery, and you go the other way and it brings you to a festival that you didn't know was happening and is free, and you go and you have a hot dog and it's a great day, right? And the other one is well, okay, this was fine, I guess. It's a nice cemetery, it's beautiful. I guess I'll just go home now. That's the difference. And it's just incredible, these little micro choices that we can make that change everything. Let's see. Okay, cool. All right. All right. So I'm just gonna, if you've done this with me before, where can we take that quiz? Oh, to get that, you're going to get the, in about an hour or so after this ends, you're going to get an email, and it's going to have 3 things. Okay. It's going to have access to this the life's work, I have a little report for you guys, like totally complimentary, that is actually part of my course, right? And this is the only time you're going to be able to really get this, okay? And so it's part of my course where we walk through this activation sequence. And the other things that you're going to get, okay. So the other things that you're going to get these 3 things. And you're going to get how to connect and stay connected with this great change that's happening, right? This big shift. And so there's going to be an event on October 17th, okay? And it's going to be huge. And it's going to be really kicking off this whole movement of the great shift that's coming. And so between now and then, it's really this, and I've timed it all with intention based on different predictions and calculations, right? October 17th. Now, in this email, you're going to have the opportunity to, I'm actually creating a newsletter where I'm in the process of writing a book about this. And everybody that goes to the Great Shift event is going to get a free copy of this. It'll be ebook and audio, right? And so what's going to happen is anybody that's on as this newsletter grows and builds, you're going to get updates. You're going to get it's going to be a newsletter on the different changes that occur and the different things that are coming in the Great Shift. So we're really building this sort of community around it between now and October 17th. And it's going to be really exciting. Okay. I am super excited. This understanding actually came to me in a download, right? And I have been really, I started talking about it, yes, October 17th. And like I said, you're going to get all of this in the email that you get after the event as well. So don't worry about it. And you'll get, first, you'll get an email that has all of this in it, right? You're going to get the recap, the replay, all of it. And then the second email that you'll get later this afternoon is going to have all of this stuff in it. And so, I started talking about the Great Shift. And I just started talking about it and not realizing how powerful it was until I started hearing that other people were starting to talk about the Great Shift, right? And other people were feeling this big rift. One of the things about the Great Shift is that it's there's 2 sides of this shift. And you're on the side where you're awake, or you're on the side where you're basically sleepwalking, right? And the side that's basically sleepwalking is starting to see things more and more pessimistically. And the side that's awake is starting to see things and realize that they are more powerful than they could have ever imagined, right? And so learning to wield that power is really the thing right now. Yeah, Christina. And so I realized how this was impacting businesses, okay, especially because I've heard from a lot of people in my network that the way that people are buying is changing and they don't really know what to do about it, right? They're like, well, I have one friend that is a very, very successful executive coach. And so she works with entrepreneurs and helps them make more money. And she's been successful for years at this, right? High ticket coach only. And recently she's been talking to me and she's like, Molly, I don't know what's happening, but I'm suddenly struggling to get clients. And it's inflation, but it's not inflation. There's something to it that's happening. It's people don't know what to do with their money right now because they want to be able to grow their businesses. But the old sales and marketing tactics and the high pressure bullying tactics, just people aren't interested in it at all. And so I realized there is this business as a spiritual path thing that I've been doing and teaching and sharing with people. It's really important because that's what's happening is this great shift. And if you look at the economy and you look at who has power, right? Big corporations, big businesses. So as professionals, as entrepreneurs, as anybody in business, when we take our power back in this way, and a lot of it just has to do with not giving up our power anymore and not being afraid of it, right? That's where true power lies, right? Because money moves differently when it has a different vibration, a different frequency, a different way that it changes hands. And so if we want the world to change, this is where it starts. And in fact, like I showed you with the nature thing, it's going to change whether or not we do this. So you might as well be part of it, basically. Because we can all feel it, it's coming and it's here, right? And so the projections that I've been looking at are as the shift of who primary consumers are happens between now and over the next 5 years, right? Depending on where you are, like what niche you're in, and so on and so forth. You're going to start feeling this if you haven't already. And then it's going to, in the next 5 years, like businesses that haven't stopped these practices are going to be drowning and done, right? And we're going to see these major shifts in, if you know anybody that does like bullying tactics and like old school sales techniques, right? I promise you, and this is a bold statement, but they are going to be falling apart in the next few years. And we're going to see it happening in real time. Okay. And so, I obviously don't want that for anybody. Right. But basically, like making the shift into being your authentic self now versus waiting until then is going to be much more comfortable. It's going to be much more comfortable. It never is comfortable at all, but it's going to be much more comfortable than just waking up in 5 years and being like, well, obviously it's not going to happen overnight, but the gradual shift, waking up and realizing, whoops, why is this happening and why am I struggling, right? And so, yeah, the 3 things that you're going to get in that email that I send you are the directions to get that bonus for coming to this event, which is your life's work report. The how to be ahead of the curve and stay up to date with the great shift, right? I have a little guidebook that's in there too, that's going to help you look at what are the next steps that I can take, and how to join my accelerator course. The people that join this accelerator course, I believe the end date for this bonus is Friday. I can double check and make sure it's in that email, is that you get a one-on-one breakthrough session with me. Okay, and this is additional. This is not something that is part of the course itself, but there is a nervous system webinar or workshop that's part of it with a specialist that's a naturopathic doctor. And she's fabulous at this. Like, this is what she does, so that we have all of the extra tools that we need to be the person that, Finn, not right. Hey, Finn, I need you to stop. That can, really get ahead here in this. And it's not just about making more money, right? It's about like freedom in general. Freedom with your time, freedom with your energy, freedom to enjoy your families and your lives, and just like whatever the world has and offers. Like, we are standing on the edge of this great shift where everything is changing, and we're going to be able to do things that we never thought were possible growing up, right? Yeah. So if anybody has any questions or wants to share any of their experiences working with me, feel free to raise your hand. Okay, Jessica, awesome. I'm glad you came. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so let's see. Joe, will you just share, like, not to put you on the spot, but will you just share what it's been like since we met about a year ago? Like, how different has things been for you since you've been like walking this path? Just to give people like the longer view of what this shift can bring.
Okay. So, I legit thought Molly was a crazy person. And that's the honest truth. The first time we met, I was like, what the world was that? It took me about a month to come around. And then I think the one thing that really got to me was I had a really strange experience where different people through different modalities kept telling me, and I'm from South Dakota. I grew up shooting shit. I just want to be clear about that. So this is very new to me. But then I kept getting this. People kept telling me different modalities. Kept telling me I was a 3-5. And Molly's rating it. I'm a 3-5 emotional projector, and it happened again later on, and I kind of ignored it. But it happened 3 times, and again, different people, not just Molly, other people. And then I realized there was something to it. And as I started meditating on these different, well, the activation sequence in particular, it really opened my eyes to my life's work, what path I walk, how I find myself to ground myself, and how I appear to others when I am in alignment. And this compass of life that she's talking about, that you guys are going to copy of, this is probably, if this path is interesting to you, this is the thing for me that I was like, whoa, holy smokes. It just unlocked so many different things in my brain. Now, I do a lot of meditation too, and I meditate across myriad of things, everything from the Bible, to Florence Shin, to the I Ching or I Ching, or however you say that word, all those things. And some of the words that came through during my meditation experiences after walking through the sequence, I was like, oh, that's what that means, and that's what that means, and that's what that means. It's just really a powerful tool to have when you understand it.
Yeah. I can hang out for a few more minutes if anybody has any questions. Again, I'll put it in the chat again. If you haven't gotten your human design, there's a complimentary chart on the website, on my website, that you can get as well. And yeah, feel free to raise your hand. Thanks for coming. Awesome.